And
Now. That's my countdown. And now.
yeah, it's like we're just preemptively getting ready for the streamer delay.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever it kicks over.
Or you could be like me and mute the stream earlier to cough and then forget to unmute it for like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
So
that's another way to do it.
it's probably better that happened because we probably would have been, if we were monetized, we would have been demonetized because my
Yeah.
Overwatch games tonight were horrid. They were horrible. I had one good, like, balanced game. So,
But anyways, we're live. What's up, guys?
hello.
What's up, nerds? And welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things competitive Overwatch and Overwatch 2. I'm your host, Emily Drunk, and we've got a pretty packed show tonight compared to some of our recent weeks. But before we jump into things tonight, just a few general reminders. If you guys are looking to keep in contact with everything going on here at the network, you can find us over on Twitter at HND Overwatch. You can find all of our video content on YouTube, also at Overwatch League Network. And then you can join our community Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. Now, that being said, joining me tonight, as always, is my co host, Spyder. And Spyder, we took a week off this past week because, it was pretty light. We've got quite a bit of blog posts from the developers. We've had some interviews with
Yeah.
the devs, both with Emon and Flats. They also had a very monetization centric interview with SVB, which dropped here like a day or two ago, which was pretty insightful. And honestly, like in regards to season 2 winding down and season 3 starting next week, I feel like we've had a pretty decent pivot in the right direction entering season 3. And of course, we had a balance patch with some of the Roadhog changes, which again wasn't like the rework that they
Right.
had alluded to, but definitely changed things up quite a bit as well. So quite a bit to unpack here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'll save my overall thoughts for the patch once we go through the patch notes because we missed last week. That is one of the things on the agenda tonight.
Hmm.
But overall, the quick like TLDR is I feel like the games have improved overall, like just the balance and what heroes we're seeing and stuff like that. With like Roadhog and Sojourn aren't appearing in like every game. I still see Sojourn pretty frequently. But like I said, we'll save that. But overall, the communication is what we asked for. It's what we wanted. I wasn't happy with all of it, but I am happy that we are getting it. And we'll talk through it tonight. But it is a positive trend. And you said it before the show started, and I'll echo it here. Like our attitudes to the game week over week have improved drastically. Like last week, I was like, "Oh man, season 3 is gonna be like hot garbo. Like I'm gonna have to force myself to, grind through season 3 just to get the mythic skin because it's going to be a hero that I play all the time, and turns out it is a hero that I play a lot. So we'll talk about that, but I'm glad to be here. I think the every other week right now is working out pretty good for us because
Mhm.
we don't have the super lean shows, but we don't have a super packed show. But as probably the first thing we're going to talk about warms up, then we might have to go back to every week at least during the summer.
Potentially, and a lot of that is just going to depend on just how things are broadcasted with the Overwatch World Cup. Because obviously, like
Hmm.
that's like the next big thing that is happening, at least on the competitive side of the game. Now that we're still in the midst of the free agency period with the Overwatch League, which of course we got a note on that as well. But we finally got some details in regards to the format that is being used for this year's Overwatch World Cup. And again, just as a reminder, the playoffs for the World Cup will be happening sometime in the fall. More than likely, I'm sure it's going to tie into BlizzCon 2023 because that's typically when the
Absolutely.
Overwatch World Cup is taking place. But we still don't have a date, a venue, or anything like that as of yet for BlizzCon. Outside of the fact that we just know that it is for sure happening this year at a physical location, not BlizzCon line like we had seen here in some previous iterations, which just definitely were not the same. But that being said, Overwatch World Cup, here's basically everything you need to know. We got 36 teams competing across 3 different conferences, each consisting of 2 separate groups of 6 countries and regions. And, everything like participant wise was selected by the Overwatch 2 player population data.
Yep.
Now, when you look at the list of the countries competing, obviously there were some omissions that were pretty obvious that have fared pretty well in the Overwatch World Cup. There still is a way in via the
Hmm.
wild card play-ins, basically. So some of those countries still have a way to like find their way into the World Cup. And obviously there was a lot of like commotion about that at the time. When you saw the initial 36 lineup. But right now we are basically entering the World Cup trials, which are going to be kicking off this month. It's basically going to be over the next 3 weekends.
Hmm.
When we have basically like trials. So we have competition committees being responsible for organizing these tryouts. And then we're entering like, okay, we need to finalize the rosters, which are the 7-man size teams, some point in April. And as I mentioned, we got the wild card challenge, which is going to basically open up 4 additional spots for the World Cup. And then we have teams competing within their respective groups starting in June. So, just a couple of months down the line. Now,
Not too bad.
obviously, like for us, it's like, well, okay, well, obviously, we're going to be following Team USA. Obviously, fairly like high expectations going into this year after what happened the last time we had the Overwatch World Cup. And our group consists of Canada, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Mexico, and Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And obviously we got like 3 spots up on the line in our respective group. I'm sure we're both feeling extremely confident that Team US is going to do well in this group. Just kind of
Yeah, I'm
having a
not too
feel
worried.
for. I mean, really, like the main competition here is Canada
Oh yeah.
out of this section, but not too much there. But I know they were also alluding to like some in-game cosmetics, which we can touch up on as well. But how are you feeling about just the general layout of how things are kind of like spaced out here, knowing that it seems like we're gonna have a couple of months of stuff in between, the Overwatch League starting here.
I think it's good. I hope once the World Cup machine gets a churning, there's a lot of content to talk about because one of the key members of the team is like a, where did they put it? It's like a social media person,
Mhm.
or they have like a GM, a coach, and then like an influencer almost. I forget the exact wording they used. So I'm excited to see like the hype videos and stuff like that. But as far as the format goes, I think this is probably other than the crazy LAN 4 qualifiers that they had at the very beginning, which we knew they weren't going to do again. I think this is probably like the second best thing that we can hope for. Obviously there are some omissions like Finland, but it's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty reasonable to expect like teams that were in that did well in the past to probably get in. I mean, heck, they gave China a way in just immediately. They basically like, yeah, we don't know what's going on with China, but they did well in the past, so we're just gonna let them into the group stages at the end, so they'll be fine. And I'm like, well, that's a little unfair because you know China did well, but U.S. and Korea have won, so shouldn't they
Mhm.
also get a pass? Like, but I don't have any worries that either one of those teams will falter. I feel like maybe they just wanted to keep them in to keep people invested. Um, but there are some like teams that I'll be looking out for. Like obviously Japan is the one that I always like to watch because they were just like crazy aggressive. And Overwatch 2 almost rewards aggression, so I think that'll be fun. Um, other than that, other than like specifics, I don't have any complaints. Like, is it going to be streamed? Like, are all the games going to be streamed? Will we get player perspectives? Like, I hope Blizzard kind of listens to the community here and loosens up a little bit with World Cup. I understand in the past, I don't agree with it, but I understand in the past with Overwatch League how tight of a lid they kept on it, like with the co-streaming and stuff like that, which we've talked about in the past. But I hope with World Cup, like they loosened it up. I hope they let like players stream their perspectives. You know, maybe not for like the actual tournament, but the qualifiers and stuff like that. Scrims I think would be cool, seeing the different teams scrim against each other, because this isn't super serious competition
Mhm.
until you get to the very end. So it'd be a lot of fun to see the teams scrim against each other. I hope there's a lot of content that comes out of it. I just I want to know the specifics. Like I want to know what, where, and how. And
Mhm.
I feel like we might get that information around the same time we get the Overwatch League information. Like I feel like there's some kind of deal or just paperwork behind the scenes, with the YouTube, Twitch, all of that, but all in all, like I'm excited for it. Like I love World Cup, so this is what we've been waiting for.
Absolutely, and you mentioned obviously like the co-stream and wasn't really like a big thing outside of like the playoffs or like the stage finals when we got to that point, or the tournament, I guess would be the best way to
Right.
to put it. But it would, they did have a lid on it. Now that being said, obviously like when it comes to the broadcasting, obviously the YouTube deal has expired at this point. We've already
Hmm.
seen CDL returning to Twitch. So, we're basically in a spot where like we're all kind of just assuming that, Overwatch will be returning to Twitch in regards to like competitive standpoint, whether it's the Overwatch League and as well as like the Overwatch World Cup. But obviously we don't have the full details on that as of yet. But hopefully we do, because like we already talked about the command center. We greatly miss that, and
Yeah.
getting the player point of views, things like that. But in the meantime, with the Overwatch World Cup, they did talk about a weapon charm that you can get just by logging into Overwatch 2 at any point starting on February 7th. We are also having the ability to like earn custom in-game cosmetics for your country, and that's basically just by like playing any game of Overwatch, really. So that'll be going on through February 21st. So I have to do like they're gonna have leaderboards for that as well. It just seems like playing any game mode really, and we'll see where things fall. But just based on a player base, I would imagine Team US is gonna be in a pretty good spot to
Hmm.
unlock some additional rewards for the player base there.
Oh yeah, easily. Like I'm not worried about any of like the optional like earnable stuff for our
Mhm.
region. Some of the other regions, I hope they like tie certain regions together. But we'll see how they do it in the end. But I the free skins are always nice, especially now that they're harder to come by. Maybe a little bit less harder in the future, but um, free stuff keeps people happy. That's why people love Twitch drops. You watch
Mhm.
people play a video game you don't even play anymore for Twitch drops. Like whenever Sea of Thieves does a Twitch drop, I watched, my favorite Sea of Thieves streamer, even though I haven't played Sea of Thieves in like 2 years. So, because I'm like, but if I go back, I want that multicolored rainbow unicorn sail or whatever it is. So, free stuff is great.
Can't complain about the price points. Now that being said, we do have some Overwatch League news. Basically, all surrounding the Toronto Defiant, who have officially announced their 2023 roster. This is something that we've basically been alluding to in regards to the rumor mill, and it has been confirmed. American Tornado have landed in Toronto. Uh, Not like entirely the core, but a lot of its members are making the transition. I
Pretty
think like
much.
the biggest like omission out of that would be Rainer,
Hmm.
who would basically announce his retirement, for personal reasons. But the lineup that we're looking at right now consists of Kaluge for the tank, DPS lineup of Hydron, Sam, and Speedily, and then the support trio of OG, Ultraviolet, and Sir Majed. So we basically got like a Frankenstein of the Atlanta Rain, the Florida Mayhem, with a couple of San Francisco Shock pieces as well, kind of like sprinkled in there. And American Tornado were definitely one of the bigger success stories out of contenders in North America. I mean, they really just absolutely dominated NA both in 2020 and 2021
For
before
sure.
they had to disband. Basically, because just about every piece of that lineup actually went to the Overwatch League. And if they didn't go to the Overwatch League, they were also playing on some pretty prestigious collegiate teams as well. And it's always interesting to see. You kind of have these teams that dissolve, kind of go their own separate way, but very rarely do we get to see the combination of the parts come back together later down the road. So, is it going to be like riding a bike? Is American Tornado just going to take off here? Obviously, the expectations for the Toronto Defiant with this news has been set fairly high, but this has also been just a franchise in general that the community's always expected a lot from. And it seems like right now they've definitely put themselves in a better position, but it's been so hard to get a read on some of these contenders teams because we've seen just wholesale teams coming in and just absolutely crush lanes. We've seen other teams just come in and really try to like punch up and like really come up short as well. So it's like, which version are we going to get out of Toronto? But I know a lot of people are excited about this team's chances entering the 2023 season.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at them on paper, they look pretty good. Like they look like top 25% team. Like they're not the mid table team that we expected year after year. Since they joined in season 2. Uh, this is probably the best they looked, and this is probably their best chance to make a mark. Initially there's always the questions of, like you said, can they convert, can they step up to the Overwatch League level? But you know all these players at this point, maybe outside of Sir Majed, have proven themselves. Like,
Mhm.
so I think, the nerves may get to them a little bit, but I don't think they'll have to worry about it. The obviously the two question marks for me are Sam and Sir Majed. Just because they were the shakiest last season. Worst case scenario, they just put Sir Majed on tank and he can play where he normally plays Ana anyway, and he'll be fine. But jokes aside, I think the team will do well this season. There are some pretty scary rosters being built, so that's the only thing that makes me a little more hesitant. But
Mhm.
this team does have the cohesiveness. They do have, a strong leader in Kaluge. Like I've made it pretty much very clear in the show in the past that I'm not the biggest Kaluge fan, but I respect him for what he can do in game, and he is a phenomenal player. So if he can get past the nerves, and kind of the shortcomings that we saw near the end of last season, this could be a team to beat. But we'll have to see. There is always that question mark at the end of the day, but
Mhm.
I am just happy to see Ultraviolet and OG stick together because as a backline, they were my second favorite to Fielder and Chio. Rest in peace, Fielder and Chio. You're dead to me now. But But yeah, they yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Toronto do well because Toronto's one of those teams that I think everybody kind of wants to do well. I don't know, like eh, there isn't like a bad stigma around the team. They've basically been like, "Go Toronto," and then you're like, well,
Mhm,
they tried.
mhm. It was an earnest attempt. Now, outside of that, I don't have this in the show notes, but I do have an update on the Shanghai Dragons, primarily when it comes to like the tryout period that they are currently in the middle of. And there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about APAC just as a whole. What the plan is there. We've already touched on that quite a bit. But in regards to the Shanghai Dragons, basically, there's no free pass in regards to returning members to the roster. We do know Fleta was like flirting with the idea of going pro in Valorant.
Hmm.
Supposedly that hasn't really panned out all that well because he does seem to be trialing with the Shanghai Dragons to make it on the roster again. So it's going to be a curious tale to see like how things fall, but it's kind of a scary situation knowing like we have no idea what the Dragons lineup is going to be looking like, but it looks like it's going to be like a completely retooled roster entering this season.
Currently, the best lineup in APAC, um, theoretically, like because we don't know any roster at APAC other than parts
Outside
of
of
Seoul.
Profit.
Yeah, I was gonna say a part of Seoul, but if you have Profit and then possibly Fleta, I don't know. They're like that's pretty even, so you could make an argument for the best roster at APAC at this point. But yeah, we don't know anything about APAC. It is funny to me that Shanghai is just trialing people, but we have seen what is it? The Infernal have done the same in the
Mhm.
past.
So so the Dynasty are doing it this season too.
Right. So that that does not inspire a whole lot of confidence in APAC for me because like for every Jonak you're gonna find on ladder, you're gonna find 10 more different ladder heroes that are not gonna work out. So
Mhm.
um, I don't have a whole lot of confidence, but Moon is still there, right? Isn't he still coach of Shanghai?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I feel like they kept Moon. So if the coaching staff is in place, then I have a little more faith. But I'm still I don't know. APAC's gonna be fun this year because we already shit on APAC, but going forward it could be like um collegiate level. Like if you remember like the Avast beams where he puts like I don't know what is it Harrisburg University or whatever, and
Hmm.
then APAC underneath. Like that is a very real possibility at this point.
Yeah, only time is gonna tell. But I only hope if we do get the traditional LAN setup, that they'll have like a small studio type setup with fans in attendance as well, just to make it a little bit more, of a home base type
I
ordeal
mean,
there.
they could even take the Justice model because the Justice, the way they do it is they let you like chill out in like their practice area while they're playing like a couple of rooms down.
Hmm.
So like they could literally set up like a media room where you watch like all the different screens and stuff, and then you have the players in a different area,
Hmm.
just for health reasons and stuff like that. But there's plenty of workarounds for it.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears to the Overwatch 2 side, quite a bit going on. We did have a balance patch that hit here within the past week, which dropped on January 24th. This was, you know, our balance updates primarily to Roadhog and addressing some of the issues with Mercy pocketing in regards to Sojourn. So, just
Hmm.
to quickly go over this, we got the Orisa Fortify health being reduced from 125 to 75. Roadhog's hook impact damage was reduced from 30 to 5, with the enemy final position distance from Roadhog increased from 3 to 4 meters. His scrap gun damage per pellet was reduced from 6.6 to 6,
Hmm.
with his recovery time being reduced from 0.85 to zero point 0.8 seconds, and a reload time reduced from 2 to 1.75 seconds. But they also gave him one additional ammo, so
Ooh.
going from 5 to 6. The Sojourn Railgun energy gain is no longer based on damage done by the primary fire,
Hmm.
and the primary fire damage per projectile was reduced from 10 to 9. And then finally, our Kiriko Healing Fuda recovery time was increased from 0.85 to 1 second. Now,
Yep.
again, like obviously there was a ton of discussion on Roadhog. There's been a lot of talks in regards to fairness, in regards to one-shot mechanics in the game. But obviously,
Boo.
Roadhog was just kind of like running rampant for some time. And I know a lot of people were like, well, why the hell is it taking them so long to actually, get the fixes in? And, we've been hearing so much about like the hot fix patching that they're able to do. But there's been some issues like in regards to like that rollout, but it finally seems to be put in place at this point, according to the devs.
Roadhog was so strong, even the developers couldn't nerf him. That's
Yeah, so it is what it is, but it seems like at least now, and we'll get into the communication aspect here in a little bit because it has been very good really this like past week or so
yeah.
compared to like what it had been throughout the course of season 2. But obviously, the whole Roadhog discussion, everyone was just seeing him, and they
Hmm.
made some pretty noticeable changes. But again, this wasn't like the full fledged, overhaul or like the reprogramming or so to speak of
Hmm. The
the
rework,
rework
yeah.
for Roadhog that they were alluding to at one point. So we are going to see some additional changes to Roadhog down the line.
Hmm.
And the Sojourn changes. I know a lot of people from like the top down perspective, like the high skill players, are just kind of like looking at this as being like a nothing burger, really.
It just
But
changes how
it's
she plays. Like she's
yeah.
still super dangerous with a mercy. It's just now you can theoretically it's easier to play her now, because you don't go for headshots because you want people to stay alive longer to build up
Mhm.
their rail charge so then you can still turn and clock somebody, which like you said it affects the higher end more than like the mid and the lower end. So I've been seeing less of her, and she's still very good. Like I played her today in one game, and once she gets her ultimate, like if you could somewhat aim, it's like a free fight win regardless by itself. So, I feel like she might need a little bit more tuning, because it's weird, and a lot of the streamers have talked about it when this patch came out of like how they've incrementally changed Sojourn over like the last 5 patches, but for Roadhog they just dumpstered him in one patch. So they were like, well, how can you say like we're afraid to make changes when you're just gonna dumpster this hero? And I think it does go back to that one shot, debate is one shots are not fun. Like they've nerfed, Widowmaker over and over again. They've nerfed Doomfist over and over again. They finally nerfed Roadhog over and over again. So I wouldn't be surprised if down the line we see like a full damage revamp, like just across the board to, I don't know, maybe slow things down a little bit more. Not much, because I think Overwatch as a whole is kind of in a good place now for time to kill, outside of a few exceptions, like Junkrat, Widowmaker, stuff like that. But um, overall, like this patch is, what we wanted. We just wanted it, 2 or 3 weeks earlier.
Mhm.
I am happy. Like everybody's making a big deal about the Roadhog and the Sojourn changes, but I am actually really happy to see that they nerfed Orisa on this patch, because it signifies to me an actual design shift of they're actually paying attention. Because if you remember, they nerfed Orisa, or they buffed Orisa quite a bit to deal with Roadhog. They were like, well, we can't fix Roadhog, so we're gonna buff Orisa, we're gonna buff Ana, we're gonna buff his counters to at least give some counterplay to it. They were smart enough this time, which they have never done in the past, to say, okay, well, we're going to pull Orisa back a little bit. Which, some can argue that it wasn't enough. I personally think Orisa's fine now, but I'm not Grandmaster. I'm not top 500. So my opinion doesn't really matter, at least according to streamers. But that design philosophy is like a big green flag for me. Like everybody talks about red flags, but nobody says anything about green flags. That's a big green flag for me because that shows that they are actually thinking about how the game interacts with one another, and they're not looking at every hero in a vacuum like they have done in the past, where they're like, oh well, Echo's really strong, so let's buff all the hit scan. And then they're like, oh, and then the next patch they're going to nerf Echo, but they're not going to touch any of the hit scan. So they're like, oh cool, so everybody's running around as Ash and McCree, just two tapping everybody. Maybe we should do something about this. So that was good. They did make some other changes here and there, like the bug fixes were good. So all in all, like I said, this is kind of a really good patch. It's just a little late into the season for it, which hopefully, the growing pains are gone now, and we can see adjustments. And they've talked about it as such. They've said like, they might say it in one of these blogs. I don't know. We've read like 7 blogs over the past 2 weeks, but in one of the blogs they mentioned like, the 2 patches aren't enough with the hot fixes. We're going to be a lot more aggressive in the future. So that's, hey, if they keep that up and then they continue this philosophy with it, that's all I ask for.
Yep, and then meanwhile, all the Genji players are like, but what about us?
Nerf them again.
Yeah, like they keep talking about like, well, Dragon Blade's really powerful. We might have to like scale it back again, and then all of a sudden the Genji players are gonna get really quiet, be like, no, just forget we said anything.
I actually like that idea. Like I hope they shift some of his power into the neutral. Not too much, because dueling a Genji is already a pain in the ass now without crowd control. But don't bring crowd control back. But see, there's like this whole spinning plates thing that you have to balance.
Right.
But I would like to see Genji in the neutral be a little better, because that's the only way I can play Genji. Because as soon as I get a Dragon Blade, I get performance anxiety, and I just randomly swing and dash in random directions.
Yep.
So
like 3.5 minutes later, when you finally earn Dragon Blade, and then you come up whiffing.
I mean, I can earn Dragon Blade in a solid 245, but when I get it and then Ana nanos me, I'm like, cool, let me dash to this person. Okay, I killed that one. Where is everybody else is gone, and I'm in a different map somehow. So
yep. I'm just waiting for the PvE talent where you're gonna be able to just throw the Dragon Blade as like a boomerang and then just control where it actually goes. So then I feel like I'm actually in control of it, because I feel like when I'm pulling out, I'm pulling out the Dragon Blade, I'm just throwing things. Like I just have a hard time being like, am I actually hitting anything? Like I have no fucking idea. So
like the in Dungeons and Dragons, my son plays a warrior based off of a Ninja Turtle, and he saw in the new Ninja Turtles movie, Leonardo has a skill where he can throw his sword and teleport to it. So like I homebrewed that into the game. I hope Genji gets that. Like you can throw the blade and teleport to it and then slash, and then that would be a cool talent. But I don't know. I don't work on PvE. Nobody does.
That's true. Well, that's not true. They talked about that in the SVB interview.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, that's just the meme going around these days, because all the development team rushed over. They ignored PvP to only work on PvE, and then it's still not out for probably still a good while now. But that's besides the point. But anyways, speaking of blog posts, we did have a part 2 for the MMR dev blog. Now we didn't really even mention part 1 of this. I hesitated
in
to
passing.
even. Yeah, in passing, I hesitated to even put this in, but the reason why I added it to the show notes was because there are some pretty big changes coming to competitive that are warrant talking about. Obviously, a lot of the discussion with PvP in Overwatch 2 so far has been the competitive updates in regards to ranking up, just seeing what your skill level is at. And a lot of people, I know, like, initially when they were talking about it, they're like, oh, yeah, you'll get an update every 7 wins, 20 losses. I'm just like, so you're telling me I'm going to play, like, 26 games of competitive before I see, my number update. I'm like, that's just going to completely shy me away from playing competitive. Well, they're changing that with the start of Season 3, making a adjustment to the number. So instead of 7 wins, it's dropping to 5 wins. And then the 20 losses is now set at 15 losses. for the competitive rank update. Then we
Ooh.
also have, as they previously mentioned, updates to the matchmaker to pair players with similar MMR in regards to the same role. So trying to remove that skill disparity at each level because you know
Yeah.
as a community, we've all seen how roly poly these games have been. Like they have felt extremely one sided for the majority of the games, especially in competitive. And that has really been one of, I mean, at least for me, like the biggest detractor of the game so far over its current course in Overwatch 2. So,
Yeah, that's what
you know, I,
stops
I
me
don't.
from playing competitive because if I get like a mismatched tank in quick play, I'd say, all right,
Mhm,
whatever. There goes 8 minutes of my day. Whereas in
mhm,
competitive, you could be stuck in that game for, unless it's super like a stomp, you could be stuck in that game for 20 minutes and
mhm.
just hating life.
Yeah, and I know, especially like at the tank position, there seems to be a fairly noticeable split in regards to just the approach of like the rock paper scissors type gameplay with the counters at tank specifically. And I know not a lot of people actually enjoy that. I myself like I really enjoy that aspect of it rather than just running straight mirror all the time, which can still happen. Um, but when there is a tank disparity, it is extremely noticeable, and things just snowball out of control so quickly. So I'm really glad that they're making a pivot to improve this. So maybe things will be more even. It's just at the tank position, it feels like the most noticeable thing in the game right now, as opposed to some of the other
Hmm.
positions. And like even if you don't have great DPS, if you have a better support line, you're offering, more abilities to the DPS to really start to pop off, as opposed to just having a bad back line and maybe no peel coming that way or things like that. So we'll see where that is, but. I do want to note they did mention like with the mid-season patch for season 3, they're going to be looking at improvements to the UI, specifically at always having the competitive update be visible to you to see like where your progress is at that point for your wins and your losses, because right now you don't really see that at all. So
Yeah, unless you're coming out of a game, you can't see
mhm,
how many more wins or losses you have to go. So I think that's a good change. I don't think this is enough of a change. Like
right.
I, if they don't want to do it every other game, like every other game would be fine, win or lose. Like or just make it a set number. Like every 3 games, win or lose, you get updated on where your rank is. So that way, if you lose 2 games and you're not emotionally prepared to see that number drop, if you lose a third, you can be like, all right, I'm I'm gonna go play quick player. I'm gonna go play mystery heroes or something like that.
Mhm.
You're not gonna be like, well, I could play one more game and lose that one, and then play one more game and lose that one, and then play 12 more games and lose those and get my rank. Uh, I don't know. Like it's so weird to me. The rank system is weird to me because they in Overwatch 2 they were like, oh, we want you to have more information. Cool, okay. Except for the one area that people kind of think matters the most. I don't necessarily agree that it matters the most, but that's what people think. People are like, "What's your SR? What's your rank? Where are you?" Stuff like that. And it's weird because I had a friend ask me the other day. He's like, "Ah, are you still playing Overwatch 2?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, what rank are you?" And I'm like, well, I haven't played comp, but last time I played comp, I didn't play enough games to figure out what my rank was after the initial placements. So like I placed high plat, but then I won 4 games. So I don't know. I could be low diamond. I could be low plat now. Like who knows? um, so the withholding of information is dumb.
Mm,
I don't and they do mention like they have longer term goals for the competitive system. So I hope as season 3 goes on, we start to learn like what the revamp is, because they said they are not going back to the old system. Like they've said that multiple times very recently. So I'd love to see what they have in store, because clearly this is not working for a majority of the community. um, and they've made the changes to top 500 so that area of the community should hopefully quiet down. So hopefully now they're going to listen to, us plebs down in, gold and plat and
The
bronze
average player.
5, the average player in bronze 5. But the rest of this was pretty cool. I mean, we talked about the tank differential. Like, I think that's like the biggest standout, because if you have one really good DPS and one really bad DPS, they kind of even out as long as that one good DPS can keep the other DPS in line. And as support, you can make up for bad DPS by going Zenyatta. You can make up for, feeding DPS by going Mercy and pulling out some reses and stuff and changing the tempo of the fight.
And
Because
using
Mercy,
that extra pistol ammo. Don't forget that.
and don't forget that. But there is no like makeup for a tank. Like the only way I can make up for a tank is play Mei, which I've done in the past. Like I've had tanks feed repeatedly to Bastions in comp games where I have just gone Mei, and the wall has bought us enough time to stabilize and turn fights. But that's it, and it's very map dependent. And if you're not good at Mei, or if the enemy team is just hard countering Mei, you're kind of SOL. So I am happy to see this is the start of their changes going forward, but they still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, the other thing of note, which is something they were talking about for season 4, is their plan to remove seasonal comp rank resets as well as current and past seasonal rank decay from
I forgot about
competitive
that.
as well.
That is big news as well, because it was stupid. Like, your MMR didn't change, but your rank went down. So it was basically like getting punished for a new season. You're like, oh, cool. So I was Masters 5, but now I'm Plat 4, but I'm still playing Masters 5. So, that didn't make any sense. The other thing I wanted to talk about on this is like some tough love, because they were basically like, Elo hell is not real. If you think it is real, you are the problem, because they are literally like, let me see if I can find it. Because they're literally like, if you play enough games, the only consistent factor is you. So you're the problem. And I'm like, oh, I mean, most people know that. Like, most people know that most games don't have a winner's queue and a loser's queue. It just feels like that sometimes. And obviously, when you're on a huge losing streak, you're like, oh my god, this sucks. And sure, there are going to be games where, you're statistically more likely to lose. That's just going to happen with matchmaking, because no matchmaker is perfect. But it's kind of true. If you can better yourself and help your team and communicate and stuff like that and improve, you can get better at the game. Like, there are some people in Grandmaster right now that are proof of that, because some of them, like Flats, started in like silver and just played and played and played and improved and learned shot calling and stuff like that. So it's some tough love. Not everybody's going to agree with it. I did find that kind of funny. I also found it interesting that they say like your stats in game have zero effect on your ranking, which I didn't know. Like, I knew that wins and losses were like a majority of it, but I thought if you did really well but you lost, it didn't hit you as hard. But apparently that's not the case. Like, apparently they're like, we don't give an F. Like, if you lose, it's a loss. You could be, a 40,000 damage Sojourn that tore up the enemy team, but they just played the objective better because they were, you're playing the Dallas Fuel and they forgot the payload existed for a whole map, kind of thing. So, I don't know. It was some good information. This one was obviously much better than part 1, because I think part 1 was a lot of like, well, here's the background and here's the methodology and whereas this was a lot more like, here's the actionable items that we're working on. So,
Right.
I want to see more part 2, less of part 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like, well, we already kind of have a general idea of like how things are implemented, and you just like relay that information just as like, hey guys, like this is how things work, and we're like, yeah, we know we've done this song and dance before. But yeah, some exciting changes coming for comp. We also had some updates to the Defense Matrix initiative, which of course is like their system that they put in place to, just overall improve the quality of the gameplay, and also like take in, actionable, just behavioral,
The
problems,
dregs.
getting them out of the, getting them out of the game, all the toxic behavior type stuff. And we got some additional steps on how they can improve overall gameplay in that sense. So we got
Mhm.
some new moderation technology being implemented specifically for custom game modes to remove
Yep.
customs with inappropriate titles and or content. So we've alluded to some of these in the past. Most of them uh, being like the RP18 type ones,
That's it.
and primarily those. Now, I will say, if you're wondering, well, hey, like, what about workshop mode? That is the primary reason why workshop mode has not been active. But that is
Yep.
going to change here soon, which we'll get into in just a bit. Now, outside of that, uh, the bigger thing coming with season 3 is streamer protection. So there's
Woo.
quite a bit going on here on that front. You're going to have the ability to hide your battle tag as well as the battle tag of other players in the same game as you. You have the ability to hide the current queue time. You can also delay it for a random time before the game begins. You have the option to hide replay codes from appearing in the game client. And all of that will be under the social options in your settings. This is something a lot of people have been wanting for, God, a long time.
Yeah.
It feels like it's like, man, guys, this would have been fantastic like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
At this point, but like I'm really happy that they're putting this up in place, and really like outside of that, and talked about, how many accounts have been actioned for cheating. They were also going into detail about how they are, I don't want to say targeting players that are like grouping up with known cheaters, but they're keeping a closer eye on that as well.
Right.
Because a lot of people are kind of like using that to like boost their own, ranking or MMR, or, whatever, as well. But streamer protection definitely a big thing for the community because
Hmm.
stream sniping has always been an issue in regards to like competitive gaming just in general.
Yeah, and honestly, no game should launch, no multiplayer game should launch in 2022, 2023 without some sort of streamer protection, even if it's just obscuring usernames and time. Um,
Mhm.
I think that is the bare minimum. Replay codes I think was good. That's not something I thought of, but it could be a backdoor into that kind of stuff. Um, so this is something that's been a long time coming, and I'm glad they're adding it. Obviously, it's not going to affect us too much because nobody's stream sniping us, or if they are, you're just as bad as the normal people I play quick play with, so it doesn't affect me. Like, okay, you're gonna kill me just as much as a different Widowmaker, so what? But uh you know the overall message I think is positive. Like, just getting these updates every once in a while for this topic I think is fine. Like,
Mhm.
we've banned certain number of cheaters. We're keeping an eye on people grouping with cheaters, because that's not ever something they talked about in the past.
Right.
They're basically like, if you cheat, you're banned, and people were like, well, this guy's in top 500 and he only plays with cheaters. So there's a lot of like accusations for going around with that. Even as of this week, there were some on the competitive Overwatch subreddit. So,
Mhm.
or you could be an Overwatch League player and get banned for cheating because you're that good. That also happened this week. But
Mhm.
for this Defense Matrix initiative, I think one of these updates, like every season, is fine. Like a short to the point blog, like, hey, this is what we've done. This is what we're looking at. Keep it vague, because I'm adjacent to internet security. Like I deal with internet security every day because I work with hospitals. So I know the more vague, the better in terms of specifics. But
Mhm.
just telling people what you're looking out for. I think this was like the perfect blog for this type of subject.
Absolutely. And as we mentioned, season 2 is winding down. I do know they've been doing like double XP for like the entirety of the final week for the
Yep.
season. And the devs have like their season 2 retrospective, talking about, just a general course that we've seen over season 2. And they also elaborated on some of the stuff that they were hinting at when they had that interview with Flats and Emon as well. So
Hmm.
something they touched up on here was obviously like Ramatra saying like, yeah, we made a number of changes to him, but their primary concern with Ramatra in his current iteration was his ultimate. Now, at the time of that interview, like we didn't have an idea of like what direction they were taking things. But we do know that they are going to make some changes in season 3 for Annihilation. Primarily, its timer is going to tick down slower if enemies are in it. Prior, obviously, it would just like pause it indefinitely. And they're
Woo.
also adding a 20-second cap to the ability as well. And like this is an interesting thing because obviously, like you and I have both been in this position where it's like
Yep.
you have your annihilation going and it's just you're hitting stuff, but like I honestly haven't felt at any point that like annihilation has just been so powerful and you're seeing like all this massive damage around you to the point where it's like, yeah, like it's going on like forever, but like nothing is really dying, so it's like
The here
it's hard to feel noticeable, I guess would
here
be the best way to put it.
here's the scenario that I'll give you that I ran into, and I'm sure this is like a lot of people are running into it. And this is actually rumored of what Overwatch League teams were doing when Ramacha was getting popular behind the scenes in scrims. Is he basically just sits on the cart, alts, and then holds block during overtime. And at that point, like, you can't do anything, especially depending on map geometry. Like, he can
Mhm.
literally just back against a wall and sit there, and the cart won't move, and you have to force him off. But you can't because you can't, he's taking so little damage that they're just healing him up. So, um, that didn't feel good. It also didn't feel good that even during normal game, like he could sit on the cart as long as people funneled into him, which teams did. Uh, or if the enemy Ramatra used his ultimate, you would end up with this stalemate of two Ramatras just blocking, sitting on the cart. So he was basically like a block bot. It wasn't
Mhm.
about the damage. It wasn't about anything. It was just the fact that he could sit there and take so much reduced damage for an infinite amount of period that it just wasn't good for the game. Like, I watched one clip of like I want to say it was like high masters, low GM, where two Ramachas just sat on the cart for literally 3 minutes of a payload push, just standing there, and the rest of the team just stopped trying. Like they were like
Mhm.
dancing and emoting and stuff on the side. So I think this is a good change. Like I think this is healthy for the game. It's definitely a very like niche fringe scenario, um,
Right.
but it is something that higher ranked players and professional teams will abuse, and that's not going to be fun to watch. Like it's
Mhm.
basically like imagine goats, but one of the person on goats was invincible. Um, well, I guess we'll see you next week when someone makes a mistake or falls asleep at the keyboard.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think overall like Ramatra is on a positive direction. I think he's actually in a very good spot right now with the Roadhog nerfs. I've seen him in a lot of games. He doesn't feel oppressive, um, but he feels like a threat. Like
Mhm.
so, and I think that's what you want the tanks to do is you want them to feel threatening. Like you don't want to go toe to toe with them unless you're another tank. Um, but you don't want to worry about them just popping out of a corner and killing you instantly, which is what we had to deal with. So I think Ramacha's in a good spot right now. The only like the only change I would make to him is make his little like grabby swirly vortex a little taller, because it's like, oh cool, Farah, boom, oh she's way up there. Guess that doesn't do anything. So you basically use it for people. It's like a win more button for me, at least when I play him, because I'm like, oh, they're trying to run away. Let me throw that in a choke so they run away slower. But
Mhm.
other than that, I think he's in a really good spot.
Yep. They also touched up on their overall consensus of the limited time mode for Battle for Olympus. They noted, like specifically with the challenges for earning the titles being too difficult, just kind of like across the
Duh.
board, which makes sense. I mean, that was a very daunting task. They also acknowledged just the fact that, like, hey, we kind of effed up. We didn't include the environmental kills in the leaderboard, which did make a difference in regards to the final
A big
outcome.
difference.
Because Junker Queen won when it really should have been Farah, but as a Farah main, I can only gripe so much about that. Besides the points. But they did say, like, yeah, we're gonna correct that in future battles. And they are also looking to make a team deathmatch version
I think
for
that
Battle
would be
for
a lot of fun.
Olympus. Hmm? So it looks like that's gonna be part of like the custom game modes, which is fantastic. And like I think like overall Battle for Olympus, like I really enjoyed that. Like deathmatch isn't something that I'm gonna be playing every day, but like I
Hmm.
thought just having like the different abilities worked out fairly well. It's just adding different flavors to the game, which was great. But the whole leaderboard aspect definitely took my desire to play it, knowing that the environmental kills weren't actually helping Farah along. So
Yeah.
that definitely prevented a lot of Farah players from playing, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Junker Queen got her moment. I mean, it makes sense. She was a season 2, mythic skin, so now she's got her, Ilio statue at
It's
this point in time.
it's very on brand for Zeus. It's
Hmm.
just if you know anything about Greek mythology, the Zeus fights dirty at times is such a kudos to whoever wrote that line, because that is like dead on for Greek mythology. So I am sad because I enjoyed Farah the most in the mode, but Junker Queen
Hmm.
was like my second most played. So I didn't earn any of the titles. Like I unfortunately got busy at work, so I didn't have a chance to grind that last week. So I was mad because I think I was only like 40 kills away from the Farah title. Um, but yeah, those titles, like I don't understand Blizzard. Like they're like, oh well, we totally underestimated that people wanted to go for every title. Do you know your player base at all? Have you paid attention these past 7 years of Overwatch, or these past 16, what, not even, yeah, 16, 18 years of World of Warcraft? Like, people will grind out anything you put in front of them, but they're going to complain about it the whole time. Um, so yeah, that was a little bit of a dumb moment for me, just because I'm like, you guys should have realized that if you're going to put titles there, which are already fairly rare, that some players are going to try to grind it out and people are going to complain like this is way too much. um like if anything, maybe they should have just been like 300 kills with that hero throughout the
Hmm.
game. Like I think that would have been fine. Like during the event, if you got 300 Farah kills, then you get the Hades title. Like limiting it to the event, I think was the problem. If they want it to be like a grind, but they obviously they could just shorten the number in the event as well. Uh, so I don't know, like that was just like a dumb moment for me. But
Hmm.
otherwise, everything they said in here, I completely agree with. Like adding a team deathmatch, adding a custom games so you can just mess around with it, I think could be a lot of fun. Just adding these abilities as an option in custom games, knowing what we know about the workshop coming soon, could be a lot of fun as well.
Hmm. But obviously, like the biggest thing out of the retrospective is their change in direction in regards to earning unlockables in a game, primarily revolving around credits. Now, obviously, Spider, you spent a lot of time doing that monetization video.
Hmm.
They touched up on monetization quite a bit in an SVB interview, which dropped earlier in the week. I'll link that in the show notes for you guys to check out. And I remember watching that interview, and those were obviously very honest about like the price points for skins in the game. They weren't afraid to say like, well, yeah, like obviously like one of the points for the battle pass and the price points is obviously to have that sustainable income because the Overwatch 2 team is at its largest point that it has been. And it's
Hmm.
also like trying to find the happy medium in regards to, how quickly you are, earning stuff in the game. And, the general consensus from the player base has been, we've had these events coming out that just haven't felt super rewarding.
Mm-mm.
And
Nope.
we've talked about like the market average for the skin cost, or like what the value is in regards to the battle pass. And they were kind of like talking about like their thoughts on like having the premium currency like added to the battle pass, and kind of like why they went the direction that they did. And they don't know if like one way is better than the other. And it's just listening to the interview made me feel a lot better, just knowing that like, okay, they really have made it more of an effort to be more communicative, instead of just saying like,
Hmm.
oh, like, yeah, hey, like we're keeping our eye on it, and then you don't hear anything for like the longest fucking time. uh but we do have changes coming in regards to credits, which were like a legacy currency, and some of this stuff is tied into the battle pass. So I felt like I was like this is like more your situation, because like you were talking about ways that they could improve the monetization of the
Yeah.
game, or just make the game feel more rewarding. So like, what are you seeing here in regards to the steps that they are taking, and how much did that align with some of your thoughts behind the video that you did?
It's a good step. Like they kind of went in between what they were doing and the Apex model, because Apex was the only game that had like a free to play currency and a premium currency. Fortnite dealt with only V Bucks. Call of Duty
Mhm.
dealt with whatever they called it. But I really like Apex's system because it does give you that ability to earn. Heroes, to earn skins. You're in Apex, you're kind of beholden to what's rotating in the shop, but that's no different than the way Overwatch does it. So
Mhm.
that's fine with me. So them going like the middle of the road route is fine, and they did mention that unlike currently, you will be able to buy old skins at any point. So I
Mhm.
think that was a big concession. I like what they're doing. I'm still a little hesitant on why they don't put premium currency in there, because that would help a lot with player retention. Like I think this is good for player happiness. Like I think this will help with people to earn skins, which is what they want to do, and stuff like that. But I really feel like the premium currency coming in a little faster so that you can buy battle passes every season with it if you put the time in, um, definitely helps a lot with player retention and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like I have a guy I work with that has not bought a Fortnite battle pass in 3.5 years. Um, just because he continues to earn that currency and stuff. And think about all the cosmetics that he's getting along the way. So, uh, you know, that was the only hang up for me. But I am glad to see that they are doing this. This was kind of what I advocated for in the video, is like they should have this free to play currency so you can unlock skins, so you can you can unlock heroes. Like I think it's really weird that sure you can put the hero in the battle pass, but put it up for sale too. Like there are people that will spend money for the hero and just jack up the free to play currency. Like if a skin costs 1,500, a new hero costs like 5,000 or something. Like but make the free to play currency earnable, not just in the battle pass, which is unfortunately what they're doing. Like I
Mhm.
feel like this the whole Overwatch 2 like progression problem could be solved if they just made this currency available by playing the game, like not in the battle pass. Like if they said, okay, this is working really well, you're going to get a small amount of currency every game, basically the way Apex does it. And then if you want a skin, you can get it. If you want a hero, you can buy the hero, or you can earn it in a battle pass for free. If you just want to speed it up. I think that would fix all of the problems. Like at the end of the day. So I feel like this is a good huge step. Like I don't want to downplay this step. Like this is a good step for progression because people finally have something to work towards. You can earn one free legendary skin a season, which is huge because if you watch the video before then, if you wanted to buy a legendary skin, it was like a year or something. I forget the exact number, but it was a long ass time. So the fact that you can earn one every 9 weeks now, are faster if you buy the battle pass, I think is a good step. But there's like this. Every time they talk about this, I'm like, there's this easy solution that another game has already implemented that you can just steal and you'd be fine. Like it would encourage people to play the game. It would encourage people to have the new hero, so they're gonna grind out the game even more. Like I don't know. Every time I see them do this stuff, I'm like, dude, it's right in front of you. All you got to do is just say, okay, here's some currency for the game. Like I don't know, but I am sure, like as much as I talk about this, they have a whole team of marketing people. They have a whole team of data analysts. They have a whole team of, salespeople that are like, okay, how can we maximize investment while maximizing player retention? I'm sure they have a lot of data that I don't have that, because at the end of the day, any company is going to milk the users for as much as possible without pissing them off, hopefully. Some companies will piss them off and still milk them, but which is where we were at 2 seasons ago. But it was a good. It's a good huge step. Like if you were that kid in school that walked up 2 steps at a time when you're going up the stairs, they jumped like 5 at this point. So I am super happy about it.
Yeah, I mean the biggest takeaway from this is nothing at this point in regards to the monetization of heroes, of skins, is set in stone. They're willing to make the adjustment, so it's a step in the right direction. I was a perfect no. But it's just trying to find the thing that makes the most sense for them from a production standpoint. So player retention that you were also mentioning as well. But in regards to like the details of like earning the credits, in season 3, players can earn up to 1,500 as free rewards, an additional 500 credits if you have the premium reward spread throughout the battle pass. Basically, all the epic legendary skins prior to the Overwatch 2 launch will be available to purchase using either coins or credits instead of just the premium currency at this point. And they're also lowering the price point for the legendary skins to 1,500 credits as well. And the only other thing I mentioned is like, yeah, hey, like just as a reminder, we are still exploring to revamp the On Fire system, and then they have begun design work on hero-based progression systems.
That's a big one
as well. Now that is a whole different like can of worms of like things that they could potentially do, and it feels like that is obviously we're very early on, so like who knows at one point we'll actually see anything implemented. But like I would just love having more hero based like titles or customization in regards to like skins and things like that, just outside of the mythic skins. So who knows what they're gonna do. Like it could just be like something as simple as weapon charms or just weapon skins in general. So who knows? But I was really happy to see that kind of like sprinkled in there. So it's like, hey, like this is one of our it's on the roadmap,
Yeah, no, I think that goes back to my earlier conversation of giving people something to work towards. There are a lot of one-trick players out there, and grinding up a hero to the point where they have some like, I don't expect this, but say they put a mythic skin at the end of this long grindy track. Um, that is like the perfect thing for people to grind for that will require a long amount of time. Like the problem with the event was 2 weeks, so people
Hmm.
were forcing themselves to play this one game mode in a limited amount of time. But if you say, hey, this mythic skin will be here forever, grind away for it, that is like the perfect incentive, you know. And like I said, I don't expect mythic skins, but obviously
Hmm.
legendary skins aren't off the table. um, Weapons, I think, are the big one, because they have talked about how they wanted to expand weapon customization beyond the golden weapons, because they weren't real happy with that system, how it turned out. Weapon charms, you know, emotes, like there's so many character specific things that they could do. um, that is like awesome to hear about. Like they're definitely thinking about. So you know, just one more step in the right direction. Like
Hmm.
I hope this doesn't take too long, um, because this is definitely a system, thinking as like a designer, that they could easily put in season 4 and make it limited. Like give it like 5, 10 tiers of, you know, maybe 2 good tiers and then like 8 tiers of, you know, basic nonsense, like a title and, you know, real easy to implement things, stuff that doesn't take a whole lot of art. um, and then over time expand it, because that as a system is perfect for scalability. Like that's basically like the dream scalability system. Is like, oh, you're a Pharah main and you've maxed out Pharah, well, here's 20 more levels of Pharah that you can grind to, and there's a new legendary skin when you get to level 40. You know, that kind of thing. It would be phenomenal for like player retention and player happiness, because not only are you earning in the battle pass, not only are you earning Overwatch League coins, but you're also earning character specific stuff. um, and that's what people want. Like people up to this point have been complaining, like, well, why am I playing? Like, I'm not, I'm people like, I'm gonna end this rant here. People literally grinded Overwatch 1 for a stupid picture border. Okay? Give them something worthwhile, and you will have
Mm.
people playing this game forever, for however long you want them to. Because at the end of the day, as much as people shit on Overwatch, as much as people hate Overwatch, as much as people who play Overwatch 8 hours a day hate Overwatch, people love Overwatch because it is a fun ass game to play, um, most of the time. So, you know, there is some easy stuff, and I think this is one of the things that they could do to, you know, make people a little more happy.
Hmm. And obviously, our eyes are kind of like set on the near future with the release of season 3, which is set to start here this upcoming week. We do have the trailer dropping on Monday for season 3, which would be February 6th.
Woo!
So, like, we don't have like a ton of details. Obviously, like, one of the biggest notable things about season 3 is just the fact that, like, hey, this is the first season we've had without a new hero release.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, like I know in that SVB interview, the devs were kind of like, you know, we're just gonna try some things and you know see what people like, what people don't like. So I feel like season 3 is definitely going to be a little bit more experimental than what we have been accustomed to seeing, at least in these first couple of months since the launch of Overwatch 2. Now, that being said, we did get our first look at the new Mythic skin, which is a Kiriko skin. We also have a new control map coming, which is the Antarctic Peninsula. You know, we got a couple of details there. I mean, obviously, you looked at the little preview video, and everyone's like, penguins!
Woo!
And that was basically it. But also the fact that you can fish
Yeah.
and
Uh,
on the new map by basically shooting bullets into, you know, an ice fishing hole.
uh,
And
the
then
Adams family method of fishing.
yeah, and then the fishers flop out. So you know, a lot of the Overwatch League teams were kind of memeing about that. But you know, obviously, with this being in Antarctica, like you would have to imagine there's gonna be a ton of like Maylore sprinkled into the
Yeah.
peninsula here.
I hope you. You know, as much as people hated Horizon, the moon section, like the outside section, was so much fun. to like
Hmm.
meme on and play in and stuff. It didn't get used a whole lot, which I think is perfect. Like I don't want like a core area of the map to have a weird gameplay mechanic. But I think having part of a map habit, I think, is a lot of fun. I hope there is like some kind of snow mechanic somewhere on this map. I don't expect it like that. It's like a fever dream. But
Hmm.
I want to see like some environmental ish stuff. I did notice, like, if you go back and watch that trailer, there is one part of it that looks a lot like the training room geometry. Like, obviously, they're probably set around the same place because the training room has a lot of snow and stuff. So people always kind of figured it was at the same base as like May or stuff like that. But the geometry was very close, and I was like, that's a little bit odd. And then they also did the stupid thing where they do an Oasis where they have that lip come out over to the middle of the point. What is it, gardens, where you can go underneath of it like a bridge.
Hmm.
I hate that thing. Like, that is my least favorite control map. Uh, so I'm sad that they've done that again. But overall, like, the visual aesthetics look really good. The Kiriko skin we didn't see a whole lot of, but what we did see was really cool. It's called Amaterasu, and for anybody who's a weeb, is instantly like Naruto. But beyond that, I hope Genji and um, Hanzo get matching legendary skins,
Hmm.
because this is, again, I'm a huge mythology buff, so obviously last season I gushed about Greek mythology. I also like Japanese mythology, so Amaterasu, Tsukihime, and Susanoo are the three like siblings. So I hope Genji, Hanzo, and Kiriko get skins that reflect, the likelihood of, the sibling-ish bond between those
Hmm.
three. So that's my only hope. Other than that, I'm patiently waiting to see what the trailer drop is.
Yeah, I just remember when they, released that snippet of the Kiriko skin. I saw the open in frame, and I'm just like, just looking at it,
Weebs.
and they're like, guys, like, obviously, like in regards to the whole memeing of Overwatch, there's been a long-standing meme of some of the animations being more popular than the game itself. But when I saw the opening frame of it, I was like, they're just teasing the community at this point.
Uh huh.
When she's like clasping her hands together, which definitely did not look like on the open frame. But that's besides the point. I just laughed so hard when I saw it though, because immediately that's where the mind is drawn towards. But with
Yep.
season three, we already mentioned this workshop mode making its return.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like they were just waiting for the moderation tools to get implemented in order for the workshop mode to get fully implemented into Overwatch 2. They also had mentioned we have the change to the ultimate charge retention, which is being reduced from 30% to 25%.
Mm-hmm.
We have tanks outside of role queue having their health be lowered, which is another thing they brushed up on during that interview with
Flats.
Iman
Yeah.
and Flats. We already mentioned the rank updates adjusting from every 7 wins and 20 losses to now being 5 wins and 15 losses. And we also have some free battle pass levels, 5 free to be exact, when you log into Overwatch 2 during the first week of season 3. But obviously, like, we'll have the patch next week. We'll have some better ideas of what we can expect. Maybe we'll have some balance updates as well. But just we got some snippets for us as just entering right now. But obviously, we'll know a little bit more when we have the trailer drop in on Monday. But I'm sure we're gonna have some more like winter-based aesthetics in regards to tying into the new map with some of these hero skins that will probably be attached to the battle pass.
Yep. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see the trailer on Monday, but I hope we get a lot of Antarctic skins. I hope we get some Japanese mythology skins. I also hope we get some kind of announcement for some crazy mode this time. Like, I don't know what it would be, like some kind of stealth ninja mode. I don't know. Like
Mhm.
really go into it. Who knows? Hanzo only mode. So, and those games last longer than Ramatra in overtime with his ultimate. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's we'll see what they have in store for our first season without a hero.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what sort, like, if anything, like if any fishing related things are going to be involved in the workshop mode,
It could be.
with with
I
that being
mean,
implemented in new maps. So who knows?
like in Fortnite, some of the quests every season are to like fish up certain fish. So it's very weird to play a battle royale and be like, all right, this game, I'm fishing. So people come in and you're like, cool, I've got a gun, let me defend myself, dude. I'm just trying to fish, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the community, at least now, if they see you fishing, some people will still kill you. Don't get me wrong. Like some people will still attack you. That'll absolutely happen. But some people will just be like, "Oh, they're just doing the quests," and they'll just like
Right.
go a different direction. So, it could be interesting to see how things go. I hope if there is any like on map fishing like related quests, I hope they're disabled in competitive mode. Like that's the only
Yeah.
thing. So
My only desire, and this is far fetched, is when you are fishing. Like, let's say you're a junker queen and you're fishing. Uh, I just want to be able to like wield the fish and use it as a weapon,
throw the
even if it's
knife and
just
bring
like
the
the
fish
the knife
back.
throw. You know,
That's
that
what
would
you
be
should be able to
fantastic.
do. You should be able to like throw the knife and bring it back and get like 150 health back. Like just Skyrim it up like you're just continuously eating the fish. Uh
Hmm.
it'll be fun. We'll see. Like I hope they go a little crazy with this season just to keep things interesting.
Yep, that's the first season without a new hero, so they're gonna try different things throughout the course of this, and hopefully hotfix patch stuff will be more frequent, as well as some of the incremental balance changes as well. But that will be something to look forward to with the start of season 3 next week. But that's basically everything that we got these past couple of weeks. A lot of stuff happening in this window since our last episode. Some pretty good communication. Again, I'll link that SVB interview with the devs about monetization in the show notes, so you guys can check that out. It was like an hour long.
It's a
Definitely
good interview.
well worth the watch. But in the meantime, I want to thank you guys for joining us here tonight for episode 249 of Heroes Never Die. If you guys are looking to keep in touch with our podcast, you can find us on Twitter at H&D Overwatch. I can also find all our video content on YouTube at Overwatch League Network. And as always, you can find us over on our community Discord at discord.me/OWL show. Outside of that, you can find Ramses at Ramses_GG. You can find myself at Tumbly Drunk, and Spyder, where can the listeners reach you?
You can find me at _Spyder Gaming. I also got my my Dallas Fuel merch. I was gonna wear it, but it's kind of hot in here, so um, yeah. I mean, we're still doing the shorts. I'm trying to limit it to like 2 a week because I
Hmm.
noticed like as I was posting like a short every day, um, the numbers just kept going down. So I'm like, all right, we'll stick to a couple of weeks. So still doing the shorts. I have some plans for long form videos for season 3. I am gonna do a map overview of the new map because those always did well in the past,
Hmm.
and I actually got a lot out of them because then I learned the map because there are still parts of Shambali Monastery. Like I played it on the stream and I was like, I didn't know this was here. Like, how did they get here?
Hmm.
So I appreciated that. So I will do a map overview. Obviously, no hero overview, but I do have a couple of other ideas brewing. So check out the YouTube.
Yeah, meanwhile, I'll just be checking out Antarctica, switching every single hero and shooting into the ice hole.
top top 5 fishing heroes in Overwatch for Antarctica. Number 7
Hmm.
will surprise you, even though it's only a
Yeah,
top
what
5.
what nets you the most fish? What
Yeah.
doesn't register in the water? Only time will tell. Well, can you fall into the water? That's the other question. Or is the hole too small?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who
But
knows?
anyways, that will do it for us here tonight, and we'll see you guys back probably next week, since it is a season start. But
Absolutely.
yeah, we'll let you guys know. You guys take care, and we'll see you then.
See you later.